So in addition to, and thank you, Saitora, for sponsoring us tonight, we always like to get some companies at various stages in their journey. I think both of you I would describe as scale up. I think Mark, we will explain in a minute, scaled up and moved up. And then Jess is part of AddressCloud. So just a bit of overview to who we've got on stage first of all. So first of all, Mark, you're now part of PriceHubble. You provide insights and data to insurers and banks about property. You're based or Swiss-based, or the company is founded in 2016, and last funding I saw was $30 million a year. You yourself previously founded WhenFresh, which you call the data supermarket. You've been a good friend of InsTech. If you want to find out why it's called WhenFresh, I recommend the podcast from the early days. Very intriguing story. You are now MD of PriceHubble since you've been acquired by
PriceHubble UK.
PriceHubble UK.
Yes.
Since they acquired you. And then AddressCloud, Alan, you're one of the co-founders, along with Mark Varley, who unfortunately can't be here today. But you are offering property analytics and data for the insurance world, built out of, Alan, your experience. You built a company previously. Mark was previously at RSA, so sort of see what it's like to be an insurer. And Jessica, you had joined recently, you're account manager, but you're also looking after partnerships.
Yeah.
Got that right?
That's us.
Brilliant. So Mark, let's come to you first of all. So first of all, congratulations on the sale. It's always very encouraging for people that are following the space to see an organization that has actually been built, developed, and sold, and hopefully reasonably successful for you. A lot of people are offering data these days. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that PriceHubble are doing that is distinguishing them from other data providers?
Yeah, I suppose the big difference is they're global. So it's trying to take local market expertise in different territories that they work in and then finesse it for that particular local market. So we have a very different understanding of risk in Japan as we would do in our exposures we have in Switzerland. I mean, obviously, they're different places. By the way, you can tell from the accent I'm not from these parts, but just roll with it. So yeah, fundamentally, you're going to be looking at different data in different territories because they're going to be exposed to different things. So it's trying to find out, okay, what is the particular data set or sets that's going to be very important to somebody operating in that territory?
And I mean, Maria there was showing us some examples from claims, but I think one of the other things you're doing is you're helping insurance companies collect data they may not necessarily know how they can use it at the time, but actually later on they can look at it and see the correlation between.
Yeah, I was thinking about how that was being displayed, and so the inverse of what we just saw would be exactly the same search engine or tools sitting behind that question set going, is this thing fraudulent? And rather than looking at the information that's been presented presented by the user at that point in time, you flip back into the library and go, hang on a minute, what thing happened just before that thing happened? So what would we have known about that would enable us to predict whether that is fraudulent or not, or then spot patterns and go, right, evidently when a cat is left with a microwave, which is what that last picture looked like, and you never should mix cats in microwaves, but if that were the truth, then we need to find much, much more data about that right now to make a difference to all of the other policies that are at risk.
And what are the sort of crossover learnings between, as you start to look at PriceHubble and discover what they're doing, you're primarily selling into financial institutions. How does that link back to what the insurance world is doing? My experience seems to be they sort of operate in two almost independent silos.
I'm very lucky to have our original investors in the room, and I didn't know they were going to be here. And when I saw them outside, I had exactly that conversation, literally those words. Why are we not doing, because at least half of our business is in banking, and the banking world is doing things in the way that the insurance world just hasn't even grasped yet. And unless these two things become tangential, we're never going to get a proper crossover in services. So I think worldview is there are other parts of the financial services. That's my dad. He always throws bottles. He does it just to upset people. There's a tangent. It's part of our symbols club. We're getting it's a process. We're working on it. Unless those two industries become more, yours and the banking industries become more tangential in terms of what you use in data and how you use, both of you catch up in terms of technology, you're going to have multi-vertical approaches to financial services. And here we are in a bastion of excellence, right? You're seeing product and service and thought coming out of Google that is extraordinary. And there is the same in banking world, but I've yet to see the insurance side of that, call it that apex, catch up and embrace. Dad, out. Sorry. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. Well, I mean, for now, anyway. Alan, to come back to AddressCloud. So you've been going about 10 years, a little bit of seed funding, but not a lot of external investment. Quite difficult to build a business, but you seem to have been very successful growing that business. You've kept it pretty lean in terms of people, but you've got some big names out there. What do you think it is about what AddressCloud has been doing that's allowed you to survive and thrive, or thrive and survive over that time?
Yeah, I think three things. First, he's the comedy man, I'm the straight man. So, no jokes from me today. I think three things. One, we have no seed funding. We started it all ourselves. It's our funding. And I think the first thing we did was focus on a customer pain point. That pain point was geocoding and addressing. It was a pain point in 2015. It's a pain point in 2020. It's a pain point now. So we focused hard on that, built the best geocoder we possibly could, solved that problem for a customer, and they're still with us today, and then just built it and built a platform around it that just delivered the hell out of it for that, not only that customer, but for all customers. So that platform now is delivering a flood solution for all the insurers in the UK. We're doing about 200 million transactions a month on that. And just today, for one customer alone, we hit 1 million transactions. So some really important design decisions early on with the customer in mind enabled us to really scale up and deliver for a big industry, even though we're a small company.
Yeah, and it's a great story. And I have another big number for you that Mark, your co-founder, shared with me. 2.4 billion buildings worldwide. You want to risk score all of them. I think Google might be helping somewhere. But how on earth do you go about doing that?
Just having a very big vision to start with, and obviously having a very good scalable platform. So we partnered with a venture called Overture, which is a whole bunch of companies. I'll let you Google it all and read about it. But that enabled us to ingest onto the platform, we said 2.4 billion buildings, and we get the footprints. And then we can take perils data, so we're taking flood data, storm data, and integrate the two. But again, the key thing is about using serverless computing as we are, is that in this instance, we were using Google BigQuery. We're able to take digital elevation models, flood data, about 112 billion points of data against 153 million buildings. And we did that processing in, any ideas? 3 days, 4 days?
With Google
4
BigQuery.
hours, 9 minutes.
Crikey.
So that's our plan, is to continue that process. And that means we then deliver data at speed to clients and give them a different view of risk by bringing multiple global data sets together, but making it hyper-local.
So with your vision, what is there a date? Because a smart goal, I think, needs a date around it. So have you got a date to do your 2.4 billion?
Oh, it's done. The data's on the platform.
Okay, have you scored them all though for risk?
Nearly all, yeah. Okay. I think we took Europe to Europe last month. We've just been asked to do North America, which is what we're doing. So we've done that in about 3 months with all the different scoring of hurricanes and all that data. We're on to Asia Pac next, so probably by the end of the year.
Okay, it's incredible, 10 people. So Mark, for you, when you were at WenFresh, every time I saw you had another intriguing data source. You had things like houses with knotweed in it and how far away your trees were for subsidence. You're a bit of a master at finding these untapped data sources, but
they're fairly vanilla. The ones that were weirdo, this is how I'm going to display myself as the kind of idiot I truly am. So I was on a call this morning looking at a new data source, and it was a live feed of flood during a storm. That doesn't sound very impressive, but it really is genuinely looking at exactly where the water is going in the now. I said, "This is amazing. How are you doing this?" And they went, "It's satellite imagery." "Satellite imagery like pictures?" And they went, No, we have to use radar. So what can't you use pictures? And they went, "Clouds, Mark. There are a lot of clouds in a storm and the pictures don't, it's just grey. So we're using, what do they call, actually, I had to write it down. So they said, right, we're using shortwave infrared based satellite / radar imagery. How about that? So yes, it's possible to wheedle out the really, really, really interesting stuff. Now, okay, we've got to take that in-house, change its shape, solve the problem that you're talking about, which is how you geocode the thing, and then go, okay, now what do we do with it? But its practical application, as it has been designed for, is to let emergency services know exactly where water creep is getting to at a point in time. Because I love insurance and everything, but when that starts to happen, I'm not crying out for my broker. I'll be looking for somebody in a yellow high-vis and a boat to get me out of there. But it's taking that information and flipping it on its head and going, well, if it's good for the emergency services to get me the hell out of here, it's probably very good if we can predict what's going to happen in the next 45 minutes. Are we sandbagging down that road? Are we moving the cars that are there? Are they ... Are they all the other things we should be doing with this information? So the wheedling out of stuff, yeah, we're proving ourselves to be good at it, but there's a critical mass here too. You have to be less good at finding stuff when you're big enough that people want to bring it to you. So
that's interesting. Less good at finding when you're big enough so they bring it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a sort of a magnetic attraction.
So we're going to come back to one more data source in a minute. You've got quite intriguing. Jess, I want to turn to you now, though. So there's a big theme now around organisations that are starting to partner for the benefit of both. You've actually got some quite impressive partnerships in there. I've actually got to go and read them. There's so many. Google's in there somewhere. You've got Sapiens, ICE, InsurTech, Cytora, Meta, another big tech company. We probably shouldn't mention beginning with M. What's happening? I mean, you've been brought in to look after this. So what does your role entail, and what is AddressCloud looking for with partnerships?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of names there, but partnerships are really important for us at AddressCloud, and they have been really since day one. When we talk about partnerships, we tend to put them into two different categories. So we've got our data partners or our data providers, and by that I mean data, and I'll try my best. And we also have our integration partners as well. So from the data side of things, we decided pretty early on that we were going to team up with expert providers like JBA Flood and the Ordnance Survey, and augment that data with open data sources to really sort of stretch out the capabilities of what we can do with that. And these partnerships continue to be really important to us. They really do underpin our value offering in the market. And I know we mentioned Overture earlier as well. I think one thing I found, we partnered with them more recently, and one thing I found really interesting when we started working with them is that they said, we didn't even consider the insurance industry when we started doing this stuff. So 2.6 billion buildings and the insurance industry wasn't even considered. So I think it really speaks to the innovation that lies in this space, the opportunity to innovate. And as we continue to work with technology partners and data partners moving forward, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what we can achieve there. And I'm aware of the time, but on the other side of the coin, we have our integration partners. So we partner with the likes of Cytora and other policy admin systems or best-in-class sort of underwriting workbenches. And I think one of the goals there is to, when we're looking to embed our solution, is to maybe eliminate any barriers to adoption. I think we understand that for a lot of big insurers and a lot of clients, integration into existing workflows is really top of mind. But I also think we've seen that a lot of these conversations tend to be quite client-led and have happened rather organically, which makes my job really easy, but also speaks to the value we can add when we team up and collaborate.
Just proves you don't have to be big for the people coming to you, Mark. But thanks, Jess. Are
you fat-shaming me? Dude, after all the years.
No comment. But Jess, I'm sure you're around after if anybody wants to talk to you. But Mark, come back to you now.
Right.
So we are going to be talking about this for a webinar, but it's a really fascinating study of something quite distressing. So you've been tracking all the buildings that have got fire panels that are similar to the ones in the Grenfell disaster. Can you just talk a little bit about what's happening there?
Yeah, that was a partnership with a number of survey companies. I mean, it started as a lockdown project in a bizarre context where we wanted to discover how many buildings do we think have external wall cladding, and then how many have been surveyed, and then what stage are they at in terms of reparation. So it required human eyeballs as well as data technology and so forth. So we basically built out this structured map that went, okay, if you, a valuer, or you, a surveyor, are passing a building, can you check the following for us? So either we know that the certs are there, we don't know the certs are there, but you're giving us an opinion about what they should look like. And then we had to train an AI model to start looking at the images of these and go, okay, so what looks like it's most likely to be true, and then put a score against them. And then we've been working with UK, well, strictly speaking now, regionalised governments, but working with each of the localised governments to go, right, this is the size of the problem that you're facing. Because the challenge about fixing this is you need enough fire officers to be able to visit the buildings to check, is that actually flammable cladding or not? We don't have nearly enough of those. Then we've got to figure out what are the buildings what are they used for? So are we talking about multifunctional buildings? Are they accommodation or are they not? Okay, now that we know what they are, we know how big they are, and we know what the reparation problem is. Okay, so who owns them? Who built it? And you're going deep, deep, deep into this data set to go, right, so that's your kind of your damage report. And from it to try and come up with a reasonable, socially responsible strategy to go, okay, if you want to fix this, there's no gags in this one. If you want to fix this, this is the order in which this needs to be done.
No, it's fascinating. Well, I'm glad we're going to be dedicating 30 minutes or 45 minutes to that whole topic because there's so much in there and it's so vital. We're coming up on time. The audience has been very tolerant being later. I think we're going to pass over to Nigel and see if there's any of those bottles left that haven't been smashed and go out for a drink. But Jess, Mark, Adam, thank you very much.
Great.